Hello, and welcome to Soul Play, where we explore the art of living with curiosity, connection, and creativity. I'm your host, Sarah Benoit, and I'm so incredibly grateful you're here. Throughout my journey, I've crossed paths with remarkable individuals, guests who join us here to share their wisdom, stories, and practical insights. These inspiring voices are shaping a better world, offering perspectives and tools that my younger self would have loved to discover. Soul Play is more than just a podcast. It's an invitation for all of us to show up authentically, reclaim our power, and reconnect with the essence of who we truly are. Today's guest is Gabriel Trachtenberg. Gabriel is a facilitator of somatic trauma healing, embodiment, and men's work, and he is sharing the tools and teachings that have profoundly shifted his life, have helped him find peace and safety in his body, and have given him the ability to have deep and meaningful relationships. Men's work has been one of the pivotal bodies of work that has influenced him, helping him heal his relationships to masculinity and to men. Gabriel finds joy and fulfillment in guiding other men into deeper connection with themselves through their bodies, healing their trauma, and bringing forth an empowered and heart-centered masculinity that the world deeply needs. In this powerful conversation, Gabriel shares his journey of healing, embodiment, and redefining masculinity. Gabriel opens up about his own disconnection from masculinity and how he transformed his relationship with it through embodiment practices and men's work. He discusses the unique struggles men face, including emotional disconnection, shame, and the challenge of setting boundaries. He also provides practical tools for cultivating safety, presence, and authentic connection, both within oneself and with others. This episode explores the power of men's spaces, the importance of healthy masculinity, and the transformative potential of supportive brotherhood. If you want to understand the unique challenges men face in healing and connection, this episode's for you. Without further ado, I welcome Gabriel Trachtenberg. Gabriel, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's such an honor to be sitting across from you. I'm so grateful that you're here, that you're doing what you're doing. I remember when I first went to the Jade Temple and then developed a community there, which, for those who don't know, the Jade Temple is a feminine embodiment space here in Copenhagen, and when I lived here I was going regularly and really explored community and sisterhood, and I was so enthralled by what I was learning and the healing and the embodiment. And I remember thinking all the time, where is this space for men? And at the time it really blew my mind that there wasn't an equivalent space, and then come back to Copenhagen and learn that you're here. So I'm so excited to get into your work. At the top of the set, I will have introduced you here. But if you don't mind taking a moment to introduce yourself and let us know why you're here.
Yeah. First I'll say that I'm so honored to be compared to the J Temple. I'm such a big fan of their work and such an inspiration for the work that I do, actually.
Big time.
And yeah, there is definitely a lack of spaces for men to come together and heal. And that's what I do, and that's what I'm here for. So I'm Gabriel. I'm an embodiment facilitator. I've studied under some really, really wise teachers, both embodiment facilitation and trauma work. And it's really, for me, about helping people, and now specifically men, to come back to their bodies as a way to come back to themselves, as a way to live a more full, happy life, as a way to show up more in their lives, in their relationships, with their kids, with their partners, with their work. And really one of the reasons men's work touches me so deeply and why I've made this my focus is, for most of my life I was very disconnected from my masculinity, and it's because I only saw negative role models of masculinity. I saw masculinity as something violent, something aggressive, something disconnected, something boring, and also I was very, very angry child. And I really learned at some point that these qualities that we'll call masculine, and we'll get into that in a moment, are just not giving me good results in the world. And it's better if I just disconnect from them. Less conflict, less challenge. And that's how I was for many years. I had mostly women friends. I would shy away from anything that was what we would call masculine. And in the last 5 years, my life has completely changed for two reasons mainly. One is embodiment and learning how to reconnect with my body, and the other one is men's work and healing my relationship to my own masculinity and to other men. and starting to see other men as brothers, as partners for this journey, and not as competition, not as people who are going to push me down or hurt me, people I'm going to fight with, but people who we can support each other.
Music to my ears. I love this. Yeah, it's incredible. Thank you. And so needed in the world. I resonate a lot. As a woman, it's really interesting, some things I've observed, like, yes, we're each human, men and women, but there's a lot of differences there. Especially when you include the conditioning and the context of being raised and expectations put on boys into adulthood. You are stoic. You are emotionless, right? You are strong and you do not cry.
Yeah.
Wow. And you have a nervous system. How do you deal with that?
Yeah. You learn to disconnect.
Exactly.
I learned to disconnect.
Sure.
And that's the story of most men. And there's the classic dynamic of, in a heterosexual partnership, where a woman is coming and sharing something that's bothering her, and her partner is just checking out. That is the only way you can really learn to survive. If you're taught that you have to be here, you have to stay here, and you can't feel, you can't express your emotions, the only physical way to get through that is to disconnect. Because you're going to have a reaction. Something's going to trigger you, and if you don't have tools or even the capacity to understand that, and you don't know what to do with these emotions coming up, then you disconnect. And this is a classic thing that I see in many men. And at the beginning of every retreat, we have a piece around the nervous system where we talk about fight, flight, and freeze, and the way we have learned to react. And I see so many bells dropping for all of the men,
light bulb moment.
And it is much of the conditioning that we go through as men. If you're taught, and not just men, of course, women go through this as well. I mean, all of us as humans, we're taught to sit down, be quiet, and behave. We're taught to override our body's sensations, our body's needs. If your body needs to get up and run around right now, you can't do that for 90% of your life. You can't do that in school, you can't do that at work. You can't actually give your body what it needs. And we're not these machines that are just sitting. Our body isn't here just to take our mind from place to place. It's a living organism, and our body has needs. You don't see any animals in the animal kingdom sitting at a desk for 8 hours.
No, I have not.
Yeah. And the only way to do that is to really override your body and what your body is telling you. And it's, I would say, deeper for men, because of the conditioning, because of what it means to be a man in the world. And if you cry, then you're labeled a little girl. As if crying, which is a natural way for your body to release toxins and to regulate the nervous system, as if that response is somehow makes you less of a man.
You're being shamed.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And you bring up the topic of shame, and it really is one of the things that men and women carry this, but I'll speak specifically to the men around this. We carry so much shame around all of these things because we feel that we're not okay for having emotions. Because if we don't feel strong all the time, then there's something wrong with us. Then we're not a man.
Wow. Yeah. All too familiar, unfortunately. And I was sharing with you before, my relationship with men at times is, I disconnect, right? Because it's unapproachable for me, a disconnected man, but coming from a compassionate lens of, wow, they've truly just disconnected from their system to survive. Yeah. Which is, that's a very sad statement, right? We're not here to merely survive. No. I hope that we are here to thrive. Yeah. Right? And given the appropriate tools, it's possible to get here. And that's why I'm so inspired by your work, right? And I feel like this is a rather new concept to really be guiding men and working with men. Because it's already such a big step to even come to you as a man, acknowledging that they want to go deeper into themselves, into their body, create some sense of brotherhood. Yeah.
Especially seeming how most of us as men, we're not taught the tools to deal with our emotions. Yeah. To understand our emotions, to regulate our nervous system. we weren't given space to feel.
Yeah.
And for many of us, including myself, for many years, we've connected feeling with something bad is going to happen.
Right.
It's not safe to feel.
So how do we bring safety to our bodies?
So that's a wonderful question. And I think maybe as we go into this question, maybe we'll do a little practice.
I would love that.
And this is something that I guide at basically the beginning of any workshop, any session that I give, is how do we drop into our bodies for a moment? And there are many ways we can do this. And one of the ways is just to sit back and close your eyes. And allowing the breath to deepen. And see if you can connect to a sensation that you feel in your body. And if you notice a sensation, maybe you can acknowledge that sensation by saying, "I hear you," with your inner voice. And just notice what happens next. And asking your body with your internal voice, what do I need right now to feel more safe? And you can share with me if anything has come up from your body.
Presence
Presence.
needs to be like unified, right? Like not separate, like you're in this together.
Yeah. Yeah, just acknowledging that the body really knows what it needs. All we need to do is learn how to ask it. And maybe just to give your body a little bit of nourishment, you can place your hands over your upper belly, over your solar plexus. And for a moment, feel the warmth of your hands on your body, and you can imagine that these hands are a layer of protection between you and the world. What we're doing now is covering up the base of our vagus nerve, which is where we get most of our information from the world, whether it's safe or not. Our body is constantly scanning our surroundings to determine whether it is safe or not. And that can sometimes get overwhelming. So bringing in this extra layer of protection can bring in an embodied sense of safety. You can share what you're feeling right now, if that feels comfortable.
An expansion, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
my body feels like my physical body feels like it's kind of landing more into the palms of my hands.
Yeah.
And that's speaks to my whole body. You know, my back is a little bit further too. Like there's just this allowance.
Yeah. And whenever you feel ready, you can slowly open your eyes. As you come back into the room, you can also orient yourself and look around and just see what is around you in the space. Maybe even taking note of 2 or 3 things that you see.
We're surrounded by plants.
Yeah.
Yeah. diffuser.
And this is a practice to help your body kind of re-enter the space, the external space, after we've been inside. And these are some examples of techniques we can use to help the body feel more safe. And I think you kind of hit it really on the spot with what you described of that expansion. Is that often when our nervous system isn't regulated, we are holding a lot of tension in our body. There's something that's bracing because maybe we're going to have to run away or fight in just a moment. If we don't feel safe, that's what is going to trigger, that's going to trigger in us this need to brace and hold, because that's how our bodies know to keep us safe when there's danger. And yeah, I just want to say that, like, I even noticed the difference between us right now. Something that feels more like present, more connected,
more grounded, more safe. Right? Like, what is the definition of embodiment? We're using a lot of words here, right?
That's
like
a good
safety,
word to define.
expansion. Like, what would that look like?
Yeah, so the way I define embodiment is the ability to experience something through your sensations. So if we can experience the world through our minds, we can understand what is happening. We can experience the world through our, we'll call it our hearts, our emotions. What are we feeling? I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling happy, I'm feeling angry. And we can experience the world through our sensations. Okay, I feel heat in my chest. I feel contraction or expansion. I feel different sensations all along my body. And this is really the key of the work of coming back to ourselves, is learning to reconnect with these sensations. Because our body is constantly communicating with us about what is happening externally and internally. But because of the way we've been conditioned, because of the way we've been brought up, we lose this connection. And
form other connections at the same time, right? Like these thoughts, for example, right? If we lessen our sensorial input and not really aware of that, then our mind is like, well, I got to kick into gear. So this even the idea of unlearning then is probably a humongous part of your work too.
It's a main theme that we work on in the retreats is how do we get out of the story that's in our minds and back into our sensations. So when we're having a sharing circle, one of the invitations and one of the things that we support the men to do is to speak about what are they feeling right now and not about the story. And it's so common and so often that people start with, I'm feeling sad, and it's because of this and this, and I'm like, hey, wait, maybe we can slow down a little bit and just stay with the emotion and the sensation. Okay, how does that feel in your body?
A foreign concept for many.
Yeah, especially for men.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how do you guide men through that? Like, if we could dissect this a little bit further. Okay, you've done a grounding exercise. There's a sense of experientially experiencing this, perhaps for the first time in a long time. And going deeper, how do you guide men away from thinking, away from that autopilot, ingrained way of being, and, into a further embodied state?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the first thing I'll say is gradually.
Sure.
Right? These things take time. And this is also part of the deconditioning of men. We're used to doing things quickly and fast and strong and intense. That is also a byproduct of disconnection. When we have learned to disconnect from ourselves, we need something that's very intense to help us feel. Because we want to feel alive. All of us, we want to feel alive. And if we can't sense in our bodies, it's really hard to feel alive. So we do things that are intense. We jump out of a plane. We have very intense sexual interactions. We do all of these things to feel. When actually, when we slow down and start moving gradually into things, we can naturally come back to feeling our sensations. And this is a process. It doesn't happen in an hour. It can. And the way I guide in the retreat is all of the practices we do are embodied practices. So if we're exploring the concept of boundaries, which boundaries are such an important topic for everyone, and especially for men, because if you ask most men, what are their boundaries in sexuality, for instance, most of them will say, I don't have any. Whatever she wants, she's the one who's going to set the boundary, not me. And there's a lot to unpack there. Maybe before we dive into men's sexuality, just this concept of how difficult it is for men to say no. And we can practice that by, you'll ask me a question and I'll say no. You'll ask me for something and I'll say no. And we can also practice that by you coming closer to me, and I practice feeling in my body when it becomes tight, when it becomes too much. What a no feels like in my body. Because we all have this understanding of a no in our minds. We have it as an intellectual concept. I don't want something, so I say no. But most of us don't have this embodied feeling of when is my body telling me no. And we do this slowly, and you will walk towards me, and I'll guide you to walk towards me, and then I'll tell you to stop. I'll tell you to move backwards. And even that is just like okay, my body can tell me when something isn't right for me. I don't have to figure it out in my mind. It doesn't have to make sense. It's just, my body says no. And that's like the first exercise after we do in like maybe the second hour of the retreat.
Wow. So embodiment, really landing in your body, and then understanding those sensations of kind of contraction, retraction versus expansion, and these yes and no's.
Yeah.
And in your experience, I know this is a challenging question perhaps, but for men, would you say that in general this is a challenging thing to uncover consistently, or is there a lot of variety there?
I would say actually the men that I meet, the men that come to my retreats, are men who are so excited and determined to do this work. And I'm seeing a big shift actually in the last year in the amount of men wanting to come do this work and in their determination. And there does seem to be an awakening of men who are realizing this disconnect, who are realizing that there's more to life, who want to show up more powerfully in their lives. They want to show up more in their relationships. They want to be more present. And so, we've talked mostly about the one archetype of men who are very, I will say, hyper macho, really strong, don't show vulnerability, don't show emotion. And I want to talk about like the other polarity of that, which is men who have a disconnect from their own masculinity and a disconnect from these qualities that allow them to show up powerfully in the world. And these men are very vulnerable and very connected to their heart, and they actually have a really healthy connection to their emotion, but their struggles are a little different. They have a struggle staying present, speaking their truth, being honest, holding their boundaries, going into conflict, showing up with anger. Anger is such a taboo subject for men. I mean, we mostly see, if we're looking at the news, we see really violent, angry men all over the place. And there's a whole other group of men who are so afraid to be angry because of that. And if we don't have connection to our anger, we don't have connection to our boundaries and to ourselves. Anger is a really important part of us that is showing up when something isn't right for us. And one of the things we work on in the retreat is really how can we reconnect to our anger in a way that's healthy? How can I still express my anger in a way that is safe for myself and for others and still stay connected? And it is such an empowering moment for men who have been disconnected from their anger for so many years when they reconnect to that. So I'm seeing a lot of men really, really inspired and really dedicated to showing up more powerfully and showing up as a whole.
Really on the path, it sounds like, right? Have seen time and time again that this level of disconnect and disregard for sensations and the way to show up according to these conditioning is just not working out for them, right? I'm really excited to delve into this further. Before we go there, if a man is listening to this podcast for the first time, and even the concept of disconnect is foreign to them, what would be a bridge for that man to really kind of step into this work, whether with a practitioner on their own? Do you have any tips to provide?
I mean, so first it's the understanding, right? Of what does it mean to disconnect. And brother, if you're listening and you're going like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? What I don't understand. I think the practice we did is something that anybody can do at home. Just taking a moment and trying to feel the sensations in their bodies. And if you can't feel a sensation in your body, that's a really good sign that, hey, there's something there that isn't allowing you to connect. And also recognizing that whatever has disconnected you is keeping you safe. Your body's way of disconnecting is a way of keeping you safe when you didn't have any other option. And that's a really, really healthy and genius mechanism. Really acknowledging that there's nothing wrong with me if I'm not feeling connected. It means something in my life happened that was scary or dangerous, and my only way to survive was to disconnect. So first, like, understanding that and having compassion for where that is. And I would say the easiest access to it can be in sexuality. How much pleasure do you feel in your body? Not just in your penis, in your whole body. Do you feel pleasure? Do you feel sensations of pleasure in your body? For most men, the answer is no. And that is directly connected to how much we're disconnected from our bodies on our day-to-day life.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is intense conversations here too, right? Like really owning up to the reality of the dysfunctional society that many of us have been raised in, men in particular, being confronted with how to live, which correlates with disconnecting from your own human form.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for taking the time. And it's true, I think self-compassion is a huge part of this process, and really landing in stillness. It always comes back to trying to be present with yourself and seeing what is coming up in your body.
And just acknowledging that trying to remember the exact statistic of the amount of suicides, men who commit suicide a year, is astronomical. There is a pandemic of men's mental health that we are starting to awaken to, starting to understand that how much, if we've come for the most part to understanding of how much harm has been caused to women from the patriarchy, from the conditioning in the world, we're starting to awaken to how much that's harming men. And through that, how much it's harming everybody.
Yeah. Everybody, every
Yeah.
human, every plant, planet Earth.
Yeah.
It's very obvious, right?
Yeah.
And it's beautiful that it's starting to become more obvious in general. And I think, like you said, this level of disconnect is unlivable, right? So it's time for action.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's time for a slower kind of action and
Yeah.
introduction into these embodiment practices.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe it seems like a good time to bring up also for women, how can you support your man in doing this work? And what I often hear, which is painful for me to hear, is you need to go do this work. And what we're saying to the men when we say that is, you're not okay, you're not enough. And of course his reaction is going to be pushing you away. Because can you imagine if a man came up to you and said, yeah, you should go and work on yourself because you're not enough? It's not acceptable, right?
Wouldn't land.
Right.
Yeah.
But for some reason it is acceptable. We sometimes downplay the sensitivity of men. And I think we forget that men are human beings who are sensitive, and there is a way we can support our brothers, our partners, our fathers into doing this work, and it has to be with love. You can't shame someone into changing.
Yeah, growth doesn't occur there. Yeah.
That'll make them close up. And a really beautiful example of that in my I do a weekly men's workshop, and the workshop before me, there was a woman facilitator, and she's like told her assistant, oh, you should go to this. And I saw his reaction, like he totally clenched up and closed off and was completely against it, because again, that's not how we support men to heal.
Yeah, and it's foreign to everything that he's ever been told, so his system is like, no, red flag, danger.
I'm not enough.
And you're supporting men through love. It really brought me full circle of when you asked me what I felt, what I needed. I needed presence.
Yeah.
And as partners and support people for men going through this journey, I think it really is that love and also presence. Like, I'm here.
Yeah.
Right? I'm here with you to explore whatever you want to talk about too. I think that's a really important point.
And it's also, how can I create emotional safety for my partner? We talk a lot about how men can create safety for women, and it's relevant to talk about also how women can create safety for men. It's a topic that doesn't seem to be as urgent, for valid reasons, of course. But if you, as a woman, can also create that emotional safety for him, you'll allow him to open up. And again, not your responsibility, because we all take action and responsibility for ourselves. But if I'm asking, how can I support my partner in opening up and connecting in the things that I want from them, then it's valuable to understand the mechanisms of how we work. And pressuring a man to open up and tell you how he feels is not going to get you what you want.
Yeah. May even cause further disconnection, right? It's a threat.
Yeah.
So patience.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's important in these moments.
Yeah. And I like to make the equivalence of a yoni and a heart. So for a yoni, or for those who don't know what yoni means, we'll call it vagina. For your yoni to open up, you need to feel really safe. And we're asking that of men, right? Show up, hold presence, so that your partner can feel safe to open up. And it's the same request for women for men's hearts. If you want a man's heart to open, you need to hold that loving presence with him and allow him to open up, invite him to open up. And that is such a beautiful thing that women have, is that ability to invite with softness. And that is so much of what can support men's healing today.
Thank you for that point. I think it's imperative in the journey, right? And it has the potential to really deepen connection, right? Like really holding each other through these processes and allowing patience and presence and time. And wow. So this is the embodiment factor that you're talking about. A lot about safety, a lot about patience, a lot about showing up and seeing what's alive in our bodies. And so after this kind of yes, no in our body, where do we go from there in these workshops that you're offering?
So usually the next piece, after we've done boundaries, we've talked about nervous system regulation and practice different tools on how to regulate the nervous system, which we can have a whole podcast just on that. Right?
Very important.
I understand that you've already interviewed one of my teachers, Gemini, who's
bless her, trauma
taught me so much.
Yes.
Thank you, Gemini.
Thank you.
We go into understanding the archetypes of, we'll say, masculine and feminine energy. Now, here's where some people get triggered. And this becomes a complex conversation, because we say masculine and feminine, we automatically hear man and woman. And it's not that. And we can call it line and circle. And the idea is, how do we take different qualities that we all have in us, men and women, and categorize them in a way that helps us understand how to get there. And so if we talk about what are some of the qualities of the healthy masculine, we'll say presence, we'll say truth, we'll say being able to stay open when there is pain. And this is not physical pain, it's not encouraging men to stay where there is abuse, right? But it is, if you are feeling emotional pain right now and you want to close up, how can you choose to stay open and to stay? And this also goes into accountability, right? How can you be accountable for your actions? How can you set your goals and be accountable to fulfill them? And yes, this also means, how can you be a healthy protector, which is something that seems to become taboo in some circles of, there is value and there is importance in being able to protect your family, your tribe, the people around you, and yourself. Now, what does that mean in the modern world? Does that mean you have to pick up a knife and harm other people? For most of us, no, if we're fortunate enough to live in a place where we have that safety. And that's a whole other topic. But for, we'll say, the Western human beings that are probably listening to us right now, the idea of safety is, how can you show up and have healthy boundaries? How can you speak your truth and bring yourself into the world powerfully? And that's what I mean by being a protector.
Yeah. Huge reframe.
Yeah.
And how is this landing for men? There must be just an exhale there, like, right?
There's an exhale and there's actually an excitement. And there's something I read somewhere recently around how we treat depression in men, and we treat depression in men and women the same. And if men are feeling powerless, they need compassion and they need love, and they need to be supported back into their power. They need to be shown that they can actually show up powerfully. And I've seen the most amazing transformations in men who have come into the workshop hunched over, feeling sorry for themselves, feeling weak and disconnected, and leaving the retreat standing tall and feeling in their power. And no amount of compassion is going to replace the process of challenging a man into his power. And this is also one of the qualities of the healthy masculine, right? It's how can I challenge my brother to be better?
And what does that look like? I would love to explore that.
So for the smallest example, it means if you're sharing in the group and you're going off into story, I'm going to tap you and I'm going to say, brother, come back to the essence. We want to feel you. Because when you're in story, it's really hard to feel. When you bring in what's alive, what's raw, what's vulnerable, that has a vibration, that has aliveness to it. And we can feel you and we can stay connected to you. So even that, and that can be triggering as fuck for some men, right?
Big time.
The authority figure, that the man with the microphone is telling me that I'm not okay, and we work with that. And if that triggers, then we stay with that. I'm like, okay, that's triggering you, right? What is that bringing up for you? And then usually there's a story there around their father or a different authority figure that was telling them they weren't okay. But one of the such a big part of healing is how can we stay in connection when emotions are coming up? And that is part of what I see as my role in this work, is you can get mad at me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stay here with you.
Correcting, like this is corrective experiences too, right? This is perhaps the first time this has ever happened for this man.
Yeah.
And he's just waiting for you to leave or yell or get angry or take authority or etc. You know, the many
Silence
examples.
him.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow, so transformational to really sit in that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And to stay open.
Yeah.
To be like, I see that you're mad at me right now. I see that you're getting mad. And I'm with you.
Yeah.
And how can I love you with that?
And this is also combining one-on-one, but you're in a workshop. You're with other brothers. You're being witnessed.
Yeah.
You're being seen and heard and held in your reality. There's a container there that I can speak from the Jade Temple that is so holding. You know, there's unity. You feel less alone in your experience. And I think a big benefit of group work especially is that if that one man that is experiencing that, it's often very relatable for the other members, right? So there's just such collective healing.
Yeah. That's often what I talk about when men say, why should I come to a men's only space? It's because of that. It's because every man there is holding something for you. Every man there has an experience that you can relate to. And when we even just sit and bring these experiences up, and we talk about them, we can normalize so much and take off so much of the shame we are holding it that's keeping us small, because shame protects us but it also keeps us small. And you know, there's moments where a brother is having a challenging time and the entire group comes in to support him and is holding him through what he's going through, and that is on such a deep embodied level a transformative experience. To feel supported by other men, to see that men can be here for you, can be a safe space for you, and not just challenge you or push you down or be the one who's going to take away your woman, right? This is a big theme that comes up around.
If I put my guard down, then you're coming.
Yeah, you're going to take from me. And actually see that we're not here to take from each other, we're here to give, and there's so much we can give. And men often, this is maybe something that'll surprise a lot of women, right? And it was surprising for me as well. There's an exercise we do where we talk about asking for support and giving support, and I ask the men to feel into, do you feel like you want to give support or receive support? Most of the men want to give support. Most of the men want to be there want to give to others. And actually, receiving support is the more challenging one. And learning how to ask for support for men is so revolutionary and it's so big. And
creates beautiful balance in relationship too, right? Because personally, actually, historically, have had a lot of challenges with receiving.
Yeah.
But at the same time, as I've developed to work on that skill, because it is a skill, it's just, I haven't practiced it.
Yeah.
But now that I do actually practice it, it's beautiful, right? We are here to give. We are here to receive and do both. And I resonate with that. And I think it's such a valuable... And what would that look like in a workshop? I'm just really... Thank you for digging into this.
Yeah.
I think having like experiences that people can call on to put into their toolkit, I think is just so important.
Yeah. So this is actually an exercise that I've learned from one of my teachers. His name is Shachar Kaspi. He's a really, really wise embodiment facilitator, and it's called the sun and the moon. Right? If you're a sun, you're the one who's giving, and if you're a moon, you're the one who's receiving. And it's just a really playful way of making it easier to ask for support throughout the workshop as well, not just in that exercise, but throughout the workshop. They can come and be like, "Hey, I'm feeling like a moon. Who wants to support me?"
Love it.
And they see all the hands go up, and it's like, "Oh my God, all these men want to support me." And what I invite them to do is to find a way that they can support each other somatically. So less about words and talking. Sometimes that's what you need, but often it's, a warm hand on your back, a little massage, or just putting your head on and leaning on someone. It's revolutionary, actually. And it's so simple. And that is maybe one of the things I want to add around this whole embodiment work, is that most of these techniques are painfully simple.
Absolutely.
To the point where you may be looking at this and be like, "What? That can't work. That can't actually solve these big emotions and big challenges I'm having." And they don't necessarily solve everything, but they help you come into a place where you can solve everything, where you have the resources.
The complexity of the mind, right?
Yeah.
The complexity, thinking, thought, going, doing. It really, allows us to forget that these embodiment things really are so simple. It's an excellent point. And I really love the sun and the moon, because there is a sense of, I imagine, a connection of the fact that it's challenging for me to ask me, Sarah, you, Gabriel, to truly ask what you need. But whenever you the moon, I need this, right? And then that's a bridge to then claiming your own needs, right? You're already claiming your needs, but I appreciate that. It's a nice practice.
And it brings us into another point which is so important to talk about when we're healing, especially if we're healing from trauma, is play and playfulness. Because a lot of the work we do in this retreat is really serious, right? We're going into deep emotional patterns and stuck emotions that have been sitting there for years. And it's really important to remember to play on the way. So a lot of the, we'll say, in between exercises, we do a lot of games and a lot of movement and a lot of fun, and there's a lot of laughter, and regaining this ability to play is so pivotal on a healing journey. And I can share from my personal experience that for years I didn't know how to play. And until one day a friend pointed out to me, she was like, you need to feel safe so that you can play.
Absolutely.
And weaving these two together, this feeling safe and feeling playful, there's so much resource and there's so much support you can get from that.
Yeah, it's a gift to yourself, and to yourself to be able to connect with yourself in those forms of play, whether it's dance or kind of like animal movements, sounding, making noise, and then also to connect with another through these practices. It's such a dream. You just delve into levels that you didn't actually think were accessible to. I think play really opens up the full spectrum.
And it allows us also to bring in curiosity, which is, when we've experienced trauma, we cannot be curious. We've lost that ability.
Our lens is so narrow.
We're surviving, and when we can start to become curious again about our experience, about what's happening in our relationships, about what are you saying when you're saying something, what does this mean? And I can become less reactive. I can give more space for things to come up gradually.
Wow. Thank you for what you're doing. And I know at the beginning you had mentioned you work through embodiment and men's work. So is that what you mean by men's work? These yeses and nos and really exploring, the sun and the moon and through play?
So that's a really good question. I would say most of these themes are universal, right? Both men and women need to learn and get a lot of value from learning about their boundaries and how to hold them, how to ask for support. I recognize that a lot of the things we talked about here are not unique to men. A lot of women experience them for sure. And I think it's also important to say that we're talking a lot about men, but I'm in no way minimizing the struggle that women go through and like the many, many, many struggles that women have in this world. And I have a lot of respect for the women in my life and the wisdom they have because of that, because of the challenges they've gone through and their innate wisdom that comes from being in a female body. I would say the uniqueness around men's work is there are themes that are unique to men in this world. And we are different. Men and women are different. If it's on a biological level of the hormones we have in our bodies, the way our bodies show up, the hair that we have, the testosterone levels, and also on a societal level, we've had different roles for generations. And that brings in different aspects for men and women. Men and women sometimes want different things. So men's work, I would say, is this coming together as men. And the themes that come up when men are alone are so unique, and they're things that often don't come up when we're in mixed spaces. And so that's what I mean by men's work, is coming together as men and talking around the topics that are challenging men at the time. And it doesn't really matter what it is. We can talk about the common themes, but the idea is being in an all-man space will allow you as a man, and me, it has allowed me as a man to touch on the deepest, darkest parts of my being that did not come up when I was in shared spaces with women.
Yeah. You can let your guard down.
Yeah.
You can be genuine and express. And I think this kind of challenging in that space too allows for deeper exploration, because you think, I imagine for some men, even saying one thing, it's like, ooh, I'm done. That was already so much. And then an additional challenge, if it's welcomed and you can work through in that container, is just, as a woman who has done similar work with different themes, of course, it's so expansive. It's so connecting, right? It creates more peace within ourselves and more peace amongst fellow humans. Yeah.
And there is something around these men's spaces where we're not going to let you bring your bullshit. We're going to call you out on it in a loving way, right? But it's going to be firm. It's not going to be, oh yeah, you can just do whatever you want and bring whatever you want. It's going to be, no, we're going to call you out. We're going to reflect to you. We're going to challenge you in a healthy way to be better. And that is something that I feel that I need as a man and that men around me need. We need softness and we need the challenge. And that I think that there's something very unique in that specific form for men that we won't get anywhere else.
I really see the benefit of that and the uniqueness of truly holding men in their reality, but also like, okay, let's level up here. This is an opportunity. This is a container where you can meet and greet what is alive, and you will be held. And I think what a rewrite. Again, your system as a fellow human, I feel like sometimes when confronted with things that were counter to everything that I knew intellectually, it really felt like scary, you know, really, really scary, almost as if there was this sense of like impending doom, right? And having that container, it's almost like tribal and indigenous. That's how these tribes work, right? They're supporting, if there's dis-ease amongst someone within the group, they come together, you know, and help each other heal. And
they share their wisdom. And it's something that I think the plight of the individualism in the world we live in today is that we are lonely. And we are in dire need of these circles, of these groups of men and women coming together to support each other. And it is really something that we can't get in one-on-one therapy, because we get wounded in a group and we heal in a group. We have that potential of coming together to heal is so much stronger than it will ever be in a one-on-one.
Absolutely. The opportunity for exposure, because you have 10 people in the room, they have 10 different lives, perspectives, everything. And yeah, we're all the same too. There's so much similarity.
Because we all have a complex relationship with the group. We've all had complex experiences, painful experiences in a group. Do I belong? Do I not belong? Am I part of this? Am I welcomed here? This is such a common theme that we can heal through group work. And it has completely changed the story of my life around that theme.
Yeah, interrelating and cultivating safety.
Yeah.
New concepts, new old concepts, right?
Right. And relational healing.
Yeah.
Which is where we're at right now, I think, in this world of, say, men and women.
Yeah.
It's a lot about healing the relationships.
And like you said, in a world of hyper individuality, there becomes this bigger illusion of separation when in fact to come together is really where the magic happens.
Yeah, and just to take a pause and notice that, like, we've been talking for a while and it's been a very energizing conversation, and I am noticing in my body like something's starting to, my energy level is starting to drop a little bit. So I'd love to we can take a break and just stand up and do a little shake, moving the body, then we can come back to this. And I know that will be more supportive for me to be more present, more connected. And this is also modeling of, okay, I feel my body needs something. I can keep ignoring it and just power through, or I can pause and give my body what it needs so that I can fully show up here.
Acknowledge what is.
Yeah.
Do you want to stand or you want to just
move?
move?
I'm going to stand up.
Okay, let's do it. Oh, join us, please. Have a little play, a little dance.
Yeah, there is. So there's this movement that you can do from your mind to your body. So your mind can tell your body what it wants to do, and you can just allow your body to move freely, however it wants to. You can let out sound.
Good call.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for amplifying that with me.
Happy to, brother. Happy to.
Yeah.
Yeah, identifying our needs and working towards meeting them.
Yeah.
What a gift. So simple, but when given a different operating system that we now need to rewire.
Yeah.
It's unlearning combined with learning new in community, correcting these old experiences into new. And wow, I see the power. I also see all the correlations between men and women. Of course there is this deep, deep familiarity there, but also some foreignness. And I'm so grateful for the separate spaces of contained men, contained women. And we were discussing earlier, it sounds like you also bring in women in your workshops to integrate.
Yeah.
Could you speak to that a bit?
Yes, this is something we've done up until now in the retreats. Is the last half day is a men and women's healing circle. So we would bring in a group of women. And this kind of idea came about from women. Women friends of mine heard that I was doing men's retreats. They were like, oh, I so want to be a fly on the wall in a men's circle. And it really touched me, right? Just seeing how much women want to know more about men. How much they care. There's so much love, like we want to understand you better. Yeah. And I was like, okay, this has to happen. And so the way we've done it is, a group of women come in while we're on the break, and they have a chance to ground with another facilitator, another woman. In the past, I've done it with Tamara Klemich, one of the leaders of the Jade Temple,
who's on a separate podcast episode. So much gold in that. Thank
Amazing.
you, Tamara, for all that you do.
Yeah. The dear friend. And she would ground with the women for a moment, kind of prepare them to like land in the space. And then we would come back and we would walk into the space and the women would greet us so beautifully. And we'd have a moment to connect, men and women, And then we'd sit down in two circles, men on the inside, women on the outside, and the women would be blindfolded. And we would just have a sharing circle of what we've learned, what's come up, what are the things that we want women to know that we don't tell them. And it's always been so powerful to see how the women react to hearing these things. How surprising it is for them to hear that men are afraid of women. This crazy concept, which is so foreign to so many people, so many women. How much excitement, how much desire is there for connection, and how much is there to learn on how we can connect to each other. And then we would switch, and the women would share, and the men would listen blindfoldedly, and we'd finish with some exchange of collective healing. So bringing up a story of something that you've done to harm a man, and asking for forgiveness, and then a man would ask for forgiveness for something he's done for a woman, and it's really being able to witness and be witnessed in the pain and taking responsibility for the things that we've done, and hearing that I'm sorry, and having that touch on all the times that we've been hurt by men and by women, and we hurt each other a lot.
Yes.
And often not because we intend to, but because we don't know any better.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that these spaces can help us come together as men and women.
It sure sounds like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Wow. I mean, in terms of the potential for connection and rewriting, it sounds like even in one workshop is so profound.
Yeah.
Are these the reflections that you're hearing from men? I imagine, yes.
Yeah. It's the fuel that keeps me going.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'll have thoughts of, okay, what can one retreat do? It's 3 days versus a whole life. And I hear and I see the men months later, and I see how it's affected them, what they've taken from it into their lives, and how big of a change it's had in their lives. And I know personally how much these workshops and how much these retreats can be impactful on our lives. And it doesn't mean that now we're healed, and now we've solved all our problems, but it means we have tools, we have awareness, we have, if nothing else, the understanding of our nervous system, of when I go into fight flight, when I go into freeze, and how can I get myself out of there? How can I stay more present in my relationships? How can I show up more for myself and for others? And what we did before of like stopping, getting up, and moving our bodies is such a revolutionary thing to bring into conflict in a relationship. If we're having a tough conversation, if you and your partner are having a tough conversation, and you both decide, hey, let's take a pause and let's just move it out, move our bodies. How much more connection is possible when we can regulate ourselves together, when we can co-regulate ourselves, when we can recognize, hey, I'm triggered right now. I can't actually see truth or hear truth because I'm triggered, and my body wants to fight or run away or disconnect. And if I can regulate myself, I can come back into my body. I can come back here, and I can open up to you. Because if I'm dysregulated, I can't connect. It's not a relevant feature for survival.
Yeah. Yeah. And through these workshops, there's so much experiential learning of that.
Yeah.
So much learning, landing in what that feels like. What is fight? What is flight? How do we get out of it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And in terms of recommendations after the closing of this beautiful workshop, how do you encourage men to continue integrating what they've learned, right?
That's such a beautiful topic, and I would say as important as the retreat itself. And one of the things I always I invite the men to do after a retreat is to rest. It's such a revolutionary concept. To go out into nature, to spend time alone, to journal, to nourish themselves in a way that is nourishing long term. So looking at your phone feels nourishing in that moment, but once you put it down, you feel worse. So activities that can nourish yourself long term, eating a healthy meal, spending time in nature, sharing with a friend, journaling, these are all things that, giving yourself touch, these are all things that can really, really be supportive. Because what we do in these workshops is we we move things around, we bring up a lot, and the more space we give to our bodies to land and to resettle and restructure, the more we can actually allow this change to happen. And another invitation I have is finding a weekly men's circle, a weekly place where you can meet with men, where you can set your goals, where you can be accountable, and hopefully this is a circle where you can also involve in the body, because this is a practice. These tools, they go away if we don't use them on a day-to-day basis. And all the men have access to a dedicated WhatsApp group where they can keep in contact or where they can share. And this is a beautiful example. It's recently, there was a message in one of the previous groups, somebody sharing that they're a moon and they need support. And seeing the conversation that happened afterwards was so touching for me, and such a powerful reminder of why this work is needed and what life can look like if we have the ability to show up vulnerably and to be supported in our lives. And I'll say that we have some distance to cover as men, because women have been doing this work, and there's so many women-only spaces that women can go to and develop and heal, and there are very few men's spaces, and we have our work cut out for us. And I believe it's our responsibility as men to spread this work, and this is something I tell all the men who do the retreat. We talk about the immense privilege that we have as men to go through this work, to have access to this work, and that with privilege comes responsibility. And then in every retreat, I ask them to think of one thing they can do when they walk out of the space to spread healthy masculinity in the world. What can they do for the people around them to promote these values? And that is true integration for me. If it doesn't, it only works if it spreads. It can't just stay here with me. It has to move on to my partner, to my brothers, to my father, to my employees, to my co-workers, to the people I meet in the supermarket. And leading by example, right? It's just how I show up can model so much of this behavior.
Ripple it outward. Let's create a new earth, and it is taking action.
Yeah.
What a dream. Thank you. I've said thank you so many times. I've been waiting for this kind of space for men for so long. The absolute infinite amount of benefit that has come my way from these women's spaces, I completely trust that it's the same for men, and it is so needed. And that is what Soul Play is about. It is about creating a new earth. It's taking action in a direction. It's identifying, okay, these are the things that serve me, these are the things that don't. And if we're conscious of the things that no longer serve us, then how do we redirect that energy? And I think these retreats are just absolutely phenomenal. We are coming to a close here, but I really want to offer, if there's anything else that we haven't talked about that you care to share, even like a thought, an idea, a message, anything, would love to hear from you.
Yeah, maybe the one last thing that's coming to me is also the humbleness of this work that I find for me, that even though I'm sitting in the role of facilitator, we are working with group wisdom. And I have some tools and I have some practices that I bring in, but I really don't know very much. And I learned so much in each retreat from the wisdom of the men. And it's not, and this is moving away from times where we had a guru who would sit up on high on a couch and we'd all listen to him and he would have the truth. And this is something I say time and time again, is I don't have the truth. I have my truth. Maybe you'll connect to it, maybe you won't. But we all have wisdom here. We all can add value to each other. And that's part of the real group learning, and also the deconstruction of power.
So valuable. We're fellow travelers.
Yeah.
Right? We can dismantle this hierarchy of, I think I know more. Let's come together. That is where the healing and returning to self and connection and depth really ignites. Yeah.
Just walking each other home.
You got it, Ram Dass. Gabriel, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, I'm based in Kopangan in Thailand. I do retreats here. I have a retreat coming up in Israel in June, in Berlin in August, and I do one-on-one coaching, embodiment coaching, helping people, men and women, connect to their bodies, reconnect to the safety in their bodies, and transform their lives through embodiment.
This is virtually also?
This is virtually as well.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Couldn't recommend you enough. Thank you for everything that you do. It's been such a pleasure to sit down and chat about this very, very important topic.
And thank you for doing this work and spotlighting so many. I've seen the people you've interviewed so far, and such important work that you're doing to support spreading these messages in the world.
You got it.
Thank
we
you
all
for
need
that.
them. Thank you so much. That's it for today. Thank you for listening. I truly hope that today's conversation was valuable to you. To learn more about today's guests, including links and resources related to everything discussed today, visit the episode page at soulplaycollective.com. I'm so grateful you're here, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on the show. So don't be shy. Send in your comments and let us know how each episode is resonating with you. If you'd like to support the podcast, the easiest and most impactful thing you can do is to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on YouTube, and leave a review and/or comment. Sharing the show or your favorite episodes with friends or on social media is fantastic and super appreciated. And finally, for podcast updates, please follow us on Instagram at soulplay.collective and at Soulplay Collective on Facebook and YouTube. Appreciate the love and support. See you back here soon.